and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on. I'm awash with this stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavour show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of the UK's second-largest city, Birmingham.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. You send us the sources, and, well, our job is to really get into them, pull out the key insights, the things that make you feel like you get it, without all the extra noise.
Exactly. We sift through it all so you get the core understanding, the stuff that matters from the material you've shared.
So today we're doing something maybe a little different. We've got excerpts from The Archers, the radio drama. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A soap opera. Really?
Yeah, but hang on, because even in these everyday fictional lives, there are some genuinely interesting things about how communities actually work, especially after something dramatic happens.
Right. We're not here to just retell the plot. Our mission is to look at the fallout, the immediate aftermath of this big event in Ambridge. We want to see the ripples, understand what's going on underneath, and maybe even see how it connects to bigger things like history and just, human nature.
It's about tracing those threads.
Okay, let's dive in then. The source material really focuses on what happens right after this intense situation that Casey meets. And what jumped out at me first was the trauma, how it lingers. Elizabeth has this nightmare.
Oh, yeah, that was striking.
Incredibly vivid, wasn't it? About David on the cruise ship, Vince, Freddy. It's got rage, a broken bottle, blood, all happening in that Casey meets storage room below deck. It felt really raw.
Absolutely. And that kind of detail, that intensity in a nightmare.
Yeah.
Psychologically, that's often the brain just really struggling to process something deeply disturbing. Even for Elizabeth, who wasn't, right in the thick of it herself.
She was an observer, yeah.
But it shows how these things unsettle everyone, the whole community, really.
Yeah. And then you've got David himself. He acknowledges the event, but then almost straight away, he's thinking, should I have done more? Even after Vince apparently called him a calming presence.
Which is quite a thing to say, given what happened.
Right. It makes you think about that self-doubt, that pressure people put on themselves.
It really does. That kind of second-guessing, psychologists call it counterfactual thinking. You replay things, imagine different choices. It's normal, part of processing, but it can easily tip into guilt, can it? Even if you did everything right.
And it's not just David feeling it. Elizabeth says she's having nightmares too, replaying it. So the trauma's definitely spread out. For you listening, it just shows, doesn't it, that understanding any situation means looking at that hidden emotional impact. It's not always obvious on the surface.
No, not at all. But then, shifting gears a bit, you see the community starting to, respond, like Chelsea volunteering on her day off for the RV Day exhibition prep.
Yeah, that felt like a little sign of, resilience.
It could be. Or just trying to find some normalcy, perhaps. People often do that in a crisis. Look for ways to contribute, to reconnect. It shows that community spirit is still there underneath the recent tension.
And then Mick finding a place for Rel to stay. Considering Rel's role in the whole Casey Meets incident, that's quite a gesture of support, isn't it?
It really is. It shows that community bonds, they're complicated. People might not approve of someone's actions, but there's still this undercurrent of looking out for each other, maybe. A sense of collective responsibility.
Keeping the fabric together, perhaps.
Something like that. It's not about saying what Rel did was okay, but about, dealing with the person now.
And even smaller things, like Usha offering Joy a lift, a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Simple kindnesses.
But they matter, don't they? Especially when things are tense. Those little connections, those micro interactions, they're often how communities start to, mend themselves. They build resilience from the ground up. You probably see similar things in your own life when things get difficult.
Okay, so let's get into the legal side of things. Rel gets bail.
Right, which is a relief for her, obviously. But look at the conditions. Daily check-in, a curfew.
See, and a borsha.
Exactly. No contact with other activists. It really brings home the practical consequences.
It's not just an abstract event anymore.
No, and these conditions, they're the legal system trying to find that balance, right? Between her rights and community safety concerns. Restricting contact with activists, for instance, that's clearly about preventing more coordinated action while the case is ongoing.
And taking her phone.
Yeah.
That's a big disruption to just normal life.
Huge. Cuts off communication, planning, everything.
But then we get Joy's side of it, talking to Usha. And it's a totally different feeling. She's worried sick about her mom's reaction, and she feels responsible for what she calls the hostage situation with the neighbors.
Yes. That conversation really shows the internal conflict, doesn't it? Joy was supportive of Rel's cause initially, but now she's facing the unintended fallout, the impact on people she knows. It's that clash of loyalties, that feeling of responsibility spreading outwards. It's messy.
It really is. Okay, and then the script kind of pivots, doesn't it? Unexpectedly digging up this old village history.
Yeah, the Reginald Dodge story. Finding his full name, and then his granddaughter gets in touch.
Just from that small detail.
And suddenly this whole life opens up. Reginald Dougie Dodge, RAF pilot, the Berlin airlift, then dedicating his life to humanitarian aid. It's quite a story.
It makes you think, doesn't it, how these layers of history are just sitting there in a community waiting to be uncovered.
Right. It reminds us that places aren't just static backdrops. They're built on the lives, the often quite surprising lives, of people who were there before. It adds depth.
And I liked Ruth's idea, displaying his story next to his old cricket bat.
Oh yeah, that connects the personal, the everyday object with the big historical achievement. Makes it feel more real, more human.
Relatable.
Exactly. It's like that mention of the other panel, the one about Reverend Bissett and the wartime tragedy. Grandma Doris remembers it being the talk of the village. History isn't just dates, it's lived experience, collective memory.
And that little hypothetical thought experiment, what if Josh, Ben, and Freddy were called up today? It suddenly makes that past conflict feel very immediate again.
It bridges the gap. But crucially, the script doesn't just stick to the heroic narrative like Dodge's. It mentions the contract. The many veterans who came back damaged, who struggled.
That felt important.
Very. It's acknowledging the complexity. History isn't simple. Celebrating heroes is one thing, but we also need to remember the cost, the long-term struggles that often get overlooked. That line, the end of a war is rarely the end of the story.
Yeah.
That really resonates. It applies to all sorts of crises, I think. It pushes you, the listener, to look beyond just the headlines of history, you know?
Definitely. Okay, so bringing it back to the present day struggles in the episode. Joy, she's just exhausted.
Totally overwhelmed, wants to run away.
And she feels foolish for having supported Rel in the first place. That felt quite raw, actually.
It shows the emotional toll, doesn't it? Getting involved in difficult issues, taking a stand. It can be draining, especially when things go sideways or you start questioning your own judgment. There's a vulnerability there.
And you hear those different takes on Rel, too. Principled, passionate, or reckless, damaged.
Yeah, the community's divided, or at least individuals see her very differently.
Which is realistic, I suppose. After something disruptive, people rarely agree completely on motivations or actions. Everyone sees it through their own filter.
Exactly. Their own values, their experiences. And the idea that maybe Rel didn't intend for people to get hurt or scared, well, that just adds another layer. The gap between intention and impact.
But in the end, Joy decides not to leave. She stays to help with the village prep for Thursday.
Right. And that line, running away from problems, never works. It feels like a moment of, well, resolve for her.
Yeah, maybe a broader point too.
Perhaps. It speaks to resilience again, doesn't it? Facing things head on, engaging with the community, even when it's hard. That's often how things actually get resolved, through collective effort.
So wrapping up this deep dive into Ambridge, we've touched on the immediate shockwaves of trauma, the ways a community tries to support itself, the legal tangles, the echoes of the past suddenly coming alive, and just the personal struggles of figuring things out.
And I think the real aha moment, if you like, is seeing how this very specific fictional village drama actually reflects these really universal human experiences. How we cope, how communities function, how history shapes us. It's all there.
Yeah, even in a radio soap, it shows how everyday stories can hold these bigger truths.
Absolutely. It's about finding the universal in the particular.
Which leads us to that final thought for you to maybe mull over. Think about your own community. How does it handle tough times? What are the stories, past and present, known and maybe unknown, that make it what it is?
Yeah, what surprising histories or individual journeys might be hidden just beneath the surface of the places and people you think you know well? It's always worth looking a little closer, isn't it?
So, what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just moving mics around.
So, what do you do?
The spot effects on the arches, just any
Are you what we call Foley then?
kind of, yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production?
Yep, that's the bull bar. That's,
This one?
yep, that's...
I mean, Hayley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. It's due in 2 months. Not much chance of that now. No. I mean, it would have been a stretch for them financially, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help them, Caroline. I mean,
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever